Hi everyone, and welcome to The Pondering Architect. I'm Viv, and in today's video I wanted to delve into the world of renovation. So more specifically, I wanted to look at how and why there has been a sharp rise in the popularity of DIY renovations within pop culture and in the households that carry them out. Home renovations are a huge part of the zeitgeist. There are millions of hours of content dedicated to the genre, from YouTube channels like the Three Bird Renovations, How to Renovate a Chateau, to TV shows like Grand Designs in the UK, Fixer Upper and Property Brothers, or the entire HGTV channel in the US and The Block in Australia. Even the hashtag renovations on Instagram has over 2.5 million posts and over 16 billion views on TikTok at the time of this recording. But it's more than just the copious amounts of content dedicated to the genre. There has been a steady incline yearly on the number of houses being renovated. Someone is always renovating something. In a survey conducted by money.co.uk, which looked at 2,000 households in the UK, found that 88% of households had undertaken renovations of some kind in 2022. Not only that, but in an article written by Bloomberg, we saw a surge in home renovations take place. The pandemic pushed people to spend on their homes like never before, tackling do-it-yourself projects with newfound fervor after years of favoring contractors. Total spending on home improvement and repairs climbed an estimated 3% last year to $14 billion, despite a slowdown in the US border economy. Historically speaking, it hasn't always been like this. For most of history, renovating has been something only the ultra-wealthy did. And until the late 19th century, property could only be afforded by the upper echelons of society. Some notable examples include the Palace of Versailles. It was originally a hunting lodge and was renovated by King Louis XIV in 1623. It took 55 years to build and was done over 4 stages. It cost vast sums of taxpayers' money and almost bankrupted the country in doing so, which is ironic because the king wanted the palace to be seen as a physical representation of France's opulence. He wanted it to be the center of society, culture, art, and influence in all of Europe. The budget for the expansion at the time was 351 livres. Historians dispute how much that would be today, once adjusted for inflation, but it is believed to range in the realm of billions. Another example is Buckingham Palace. Originally known as Buckingham House, it was acquired for Queen Charlotte by her husband, King George III. It was her son, King George IV, upon his ascension, that began renovations to the property in 1825. The original extension cost approximately £500,000, which in today's terms is about £46 million. This was over double the original budget approved by Parliament at the time. As seen in both cases, renovations were not something the everyday person did. It cost vast sums of money, hundreds if not thousands of people to do the manual labor, decades of time to construct, and it wasn't something you did on your own or for yourself. In fact, records show, peasants or the houses that they lived in, often the fire would be in the center of the room with and houses had no windows or any kind of circulation. They often sat in stools because chairs were too expensive to afford. They were generally these 1-bedroom spaces where the family kind of inhabited. Having a house that you could do anything other than the bare necessities of sleeping and eating in and to shelter yourself from the weather wasn't accessible to the everyday person. And in fact, having multiple rooms was seen as like a luxury for its time or those times. And it was like that for a very long time. I mean, even into the early parts of the 20th century, a lot of people lived in very close quarters, whether that be in Europe or up and coming cities like New York, Sydney, all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting how things have kind of progressed to what they are today in such a short span of time. Things, however, started to change in the 1940s with the rise of the middle class and home ownership becoming more accessible. But home renovations really took off in the 1980s with the creation of home improvement and real estate TV channels like HGTV in the United States. People started to invest and take pride in the spaces they inhabited. Today, according to the Joint Center for Housing Centers at Harvard University, the JCHS, saw that home improvement project spending increased from $328 billion in 2019 to $472 billion in 2022, with an estimated 2023 spending of $485 billion. Similarly, in another article by Bloomberg in 2022, UK households spent a combined $55 billion on home improvements in 2021, up 12% from the previous year. So what is it about this relatively new phenomenon that makes renovating such an appealing endeavor for the home today? Why are we so enthralled by it? One, it makes the unattainable attainable. So renovations can offer up a financially savvy way to achieve a feeling of wealth and luxury that most households otherwise could not afford. There is a plethora of content out there that looks at and discusses how households on a budget can achieve that luxury look. I think this phenomenon is eloquently articulated in a Harper's Bazaar article I recently looked at. Whilst it touches on the old money look in terms of fashion, I think it also applies quite well or translates quite well to home renovations and how households are starting to or wanting to inhabit their spaces. This is especially true due to the sharp rise in the cost of living and the economic downturn that we're currently facing. This is creating a sense of millennials and Gen Zers wanting to turn to the old money aesthetic. As Harper's Bazaar puts it, people's infatuation with extortionate wealth feels paradoxically at odds with and also symptomatic of a period of economic instability. The article points to several economic theories that may explain the shift to mirroring high-end luxury looks. For example, in 1926, economist George Taylor coined the hemline index, theorizing that women's skirts get shorter during times of financial prosperity and longer in a recession. Then there's former consumer IBM's consumer products expert Trevor Davies, who conducted a study which found that long periods of recession led to the height of high heels getting lower. Whilst these theories directly correlate to the fashion sensibilities of old money aesthetic, I think they also carry through to our want of transferring this aesthetic to the homes we live in and the spaces we inhabit. I think it works with this idea that we create a sense of wealth and luxury within our homes so that we might feel better about our economic status and therefore reject our current economic climate and financial turmoil. You know, there are also Pinterest boards and online publications such as Decor, Architectural Digest, and Apartment Therapy that open us up to endless possibilities. They guide us in creating a home that's happy, healthy, and uniquely our own by providing content that spans across house tours, home projects, real estate, and home buying. We aspire to this. We want this. DIY renovations allow us to do this. It creates an avenue where fantasy can become a reality. 2. The IKEA effect. This was a term coined in a Harvard Business School study. The study described how people tend to value an object or an item more if they have assembled it or created it themselves. So broadly speaking, the IKEA effect speaks to how we value things more if we put effort into creating them. Renovations, especially DIYs, provide a sense of accomplishment and personal satisfaction. Seeing the result of your hard work is rewarding. It creates a sense of accomplishment as it is challenging and rewarding when executed well. we are less likely to be thoughtless and take for granted a home that we have helped create physically. There is a psychological investment and a bond to the home. So by investing time, effort, and resources into a place, individuals develop a deeper connection and attachment to it. 3. The increasing cost of living. In a recent poll of 517 participants conducted by CNBC, Making It Work found that 68% of millennials would buy a fixer-upper instead of paying top dollar for a fully completed home. It shows that individuals are happy to use sweat equity to build something that meets their needs. With household incomes failing to keep up with increasing housing prices, millennials and now Gen Zers are struggling to find homes that they can afford to live in. In London, for example, it costs 14.4 times the average salary in 2023 to purchase the average home, as opposed to 25 years ago, when it cost 4.4 times the average salary to purchase the average home. Therefore, buying a home that needs some work presents itself as a more affordable option, as they are cheaper to purchase. Renovating can be a more financially savvy way to upsize when your household grows and needs changing, especially in cities where purchasing property is expensive due to their high demand. I do want to briefly touch on the fact that a big part of what makes fixer-uppers affordable is that it requires homeowners to invest a significant amount of their time to make it livable. So therefore, this is something you guys should consider if you want to go down this path. Ultimately, do you have the time and resources to do this on your own? I would suggest doing a cost comparison. Is it actually a better option for you guys when you're purchasing your home? Is paying more for something that is livable and meets your needs more expensive, as opposed to, the initial costs of buying the fixer-upper, then the actual renovation costs on top of that, plus your time that will be needed to actually renovate the space? More often than not, most of us have full-time jobs and are working full-time. So, are you able to take time off to be able to renovate your house? Or if not, do you want to spend every ounce of your free time renovating something? And it's always worth doing that cost comparison. Like, I know it's quite difficult, but your time is your precious resource. So what kind of things are you willing to outsource or pay for to make your life easier, essentially? Also, renovating does require skill, and it's not for everyone. So I wouldn't necessarily be fooled by how the content out there saying that it's easy to do, because sometimes it's not, and that's okay if it's not your thing. 4, the allure of generating wealth. Renovating can be seen as an investment. People can potentially increase their home's property value by upgrading and modernizing their property. Generating income through renovations can be done in one of 2 ways. The first is by flipping houses. According to Investopedia, flipping real estate refers to the purchasing of properties and selling them on a short time frame, generally less than a year, for a profit. Real estate investors target properties that are in a rapidly appreciating market and uses their knowledge of what buyers want to improve undervalued properties with renovations and/or cosmetic changes known as a reno flip. House flipping is risky as it requires more than just your general understanding of real estate within a specific region. Second is through rental properties. And what I mean by this is, I think there was a period between, 2015 to 2021 where short-term rentals on sites like Airbnb drew mass appeal. And this led to a surge in content online about how you could buy a property where in a more affordable area that you didn't live in that had a demand for short-term rentals. Often the content out there looked at how they would source out a site, buy the site, which had required a lot of work. They did the design and renovations on it and then started renting it out to tourists, and then they looked at kind of like the financial breakdown of how they were making money passively. And I use this term loosely because I don't think any kind of rental is passive. It requires a lot of work, not just the upfront costs of making it livable for the tenants, but also as a landlord, you need to be able to fix any issues that tenants come across whilst they're there. Not to mention, you need to be able to have the time and money to fix the issues that tenants will have when they're living in the space, as well as the time to coordinate the change of tenants, because it's a short-term rental, so there'll be a constant exchange of tenants within the property. And if you're not living nearby, that could become an issue, because you'll either need to hire a management agency or someone to manage the property for you, or you kind of have to manage that yourself, and that could turn out to be really expensive depending on how far away you live from this rental property. Not only was there content put out there, but some of these creators, like especially on TikTok, even sold courses, which was a little bit seedy. Financial Confessions, which is a podcast, did a recent podcast about it, which I thought was quite interesting, and you guys should go check that out. So the biggest issue, in my personal opinion, even though it's slightly deviating off renovations itself, is something that Forbes describes as the Airbnb effect. The Airbnb effect is, to some extent, remarkably similar to gentrification, in that it slowly increases the value of an area to the detriment of the indigenous residents, many of whom are pushed out due to the financial constraints. Studies on the Airbnb effect have found that over-tourism facilitated by platforms such as Airbnb negatively impacts house prices and communities. Research conducted by the Harvard Business Review found that Airbnb is having a detrimental impact on housing stock, as it encourages landlords to move their properties out of the long-term rental and for sale markets and into the short-term rental market. So whilst renovating for rentals can be lucrative for the individual, it does have some serious implications and should be taken into consideration when thinking about using this as an avenue to generate income. 5, it revives the space through self-expression. Your home is one of the few places where you can really unwind and truly be yourself. There are no expectations, there are no judgments. Renovating can allow us to express our creativity and personal style. It enables us to revive a space according to our preferences and create a unique environment that reflects our personality. It enables us to revive a space according to our preferences and create a unique environment that reflects our personality. It allows us to customize our living space to better suit our needs and preferences. You can adapt the layout, functionality, and design to cater for your specific lifestyle. It makes the space more personalized and tailored to your requirements. According to an article by the Financial Times, we decorate because we want to cancel out the traces of those who have lived in a place before us. It can be from a pathological need to show that we are individuals living in homes that are unique. It can demonstrate the power of an individual measured in sheer square footage. It is what happens when a purchaser is trying to ensure that their home is not the same as all the other apartments in the block, as if they were identical hotel rooms in a Holiday Inn, in which every room has the same taps and wall prints. We want to make our homes personal reflections of our own personalities. Through self-expression, we create a fresh and revitalized home. It offers us an opportunity to breathe new life into a space that may have become outdated and no longer speaks to who we are anymore. This renewal can enhance the overall ambience and atmosphere, making it more inviting and enjoyable. It offers us an opportunity to breathe in new life into a space that may have become outdated and no longer speaks to who we are anymore. This renewal can enhance the overall ambience and atmosphere, making it more inviting and enjoyable. We no longer want our needs to fit the house that is built. Thank you for making it all the way, and an even bigger thank you for joining me on my first ever video. I really appreciate it. I wanted to create this platform to talk about all things related to architecture and pop culture. I'm not sure in what direction things will head in or where it will kind of go from here, but I'm curious and I'd love to go on this journey with you guys. If you liked it, please do give it a thumbs up and do subscribe. I'll pop down a link to a Google Docs below, and I'd love to hear of any recommendations or things you'd like me to talk about on this platform. Also, drop a comment down in the comments about why you may have renovated or reasons why you wouldn't want to renovate. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, that's all for now. Hope to see you soon. Bye!